Good morning to one and all. We are here for the AICTE ISTE sponsored refresher induction program on value-based education system on current and future scenario. We are here for the day 5, session 1. It's going to be handled by Dr. K.S. Badrinathan, Dean, Educational Development, Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering. The topic is going to be on achieving quality in higher education through accreditation. Welcome you, sir. Now, I request Dr. R. Murugan, Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, Panimalar Institute of Technology, to introduce the guests for us.
Thank you, Amos. So it gives me immense pleasure to introduce Professor Badrinathan. He is one of my role model. So Professor Badrinathan, he did his UG in Mechanical Engineering from Government College of Engineering, Salem in the year 1988. He completed his Masters in Manufacturing Technology from NIT Trichy in the year 1993. He did his PhD in Computer-Aided Manufacturing from Anna University, Chennai in the year 2014. He has more than 30 years of teaching experience in engineering colleges. His areas of interest: CAD/CAM, robotics, 3D printing, and low-cost automations. He is shouldering many academic responsibilities in the college, Venkateshwara College of Engineering. So presently, he is working as professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, and he is the Dean for Educational Development, and he is a coordinator for students' higher studies. He is a college level coordinator for NBA and NAC activities. He is the one in implementing outcome-based education in Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering. Also, he is a coordinator for special elective courses handled by external experts. He has many accomplishments in the research. So he has presented many number of papers in international and international journals and conferences. He attended numerous workshops and FDPs, and also he has guided UG and PG projects and won best project award in the INAE award also. So it is our pleasure to welcome you for our program, Professor. So I hand over the session to Dr. Badrinathan.
So are you able to see me, hear me, see my PPT? Everything's okay?
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Okay. Thank you. So very good morning to one and all present in this meeting. First of all, before getting into business, let me thank AICTE, ISTE for creating this platform, and thanks to ISTE chapter of PIT for making use of that platform and organizing this program. And a special thanks to Professor Murugan, the coordinator, with the other coordinators too, for inviting me and giving me this wonderful opportunity. And of course, again, another special thanks to all the participants, without whom this will not be possible. Whatever arrangements we make, without participants, nothing can happen. So a special good morning and thanks to all the participants. So now we'll get into business. The topic given to me, or the topic I have chosen, is achieving quality in higher education through accreditation. I think it's the right time. We talked about it because just recently the engineering admissions, the counseling concluded. So we all know what's happening every year. At the time of counseling, a lot of speculations in the media. How many vacancies are there? How many applied? How many join? So thousands and thousands of seats going vacant. This is one side when it comes to admission. On the other side, the talk is about people are not joining. Why they are not joining? They are not getting jobs. So when you say they are not getting jobs, is it because jobs are not available, or they are not employable. So these are the two things which year over year we keep talking about, discussing about. So what could be the root cause of all those things? Why this is happening? Right? So probably at the end of this presentation, we must be able to understand or go to the root cause of these two problems, admissions and placements. Okay. So this is going to be my contents of my presentation: education, higher education, quality in higher education, approvals, accreditations. What is the difference between approval and accreditation, and different accreditation and ranking that engineering colleges normally go in for. So education, you may ask why this slide, right? Because we must know fundamentally what education is. Only then we can think of quality in that education. So I thought I'll give a couple of definitions for that. So the first one is education is the process of facilitating learning, or it's called acquisition of knowledge. So this is where a major change that's happening, or that has already happened, if not here, elsewhere. So we have been, stopping with this. If you look at the definition of education, we stop up to this acquisition of knowledge, right? Of course, there's another big topic where the pandemic has introduced us to online education, and the people are trying to materialize on that, and they are trying to project as if a formal college sort of classroom sort of education is not at all needed. Yes, it is not needed, provided if knowledge is only about acquiring knowledge, or what you call piece of information. But education is much more than that. So we need skills, we need values, we need to know what are the morals, beliefs, habits, and more importantly, this personal development. This an online education or mere knowledge, what you call piece of information, you call collection of information, cannot give these things. So this one thing which we need to understand. So that makes a big difference. Maybe another definition for education is it's the act or process of acquiring general knowledge, developing the powers of reasoning and judgment, what you call logical reasoning, and generally preparing oneself for a mature life. So again, this keyword is this: does our education system, does our education give you this? Or probably here I use the word mature life. Probably the other term which people are using very frequently nowadays is, do the candidates have the life skills? Right? So, so that is why I said the definition is important, because we should not stop here, and that's what is happening here. Right? And that's a basic definition of education. What's higher education? Is the final stage of a formal learning that occurs after completion of what's called secondary education or school education. So after that, what you do is your higher education, and an higher education leads to an award of an academic degree, right? So why higher education? This is another topic which now every year there are statistics are given. What is the enrollment ratio of higher education? Is it improving, or is it stagnant, or it's going down? Of course, when you talk about education, probably on the very, very basic level, education, when someone is educated means he must be able to read, write, speak clearly and communicate. Then why you talk about higher education? School education is much more than enough for an individual to give these things. But higher education plays a crucial role in the growth and development of the nation in terms of so many things: social, economical, cultural, and scientific aspects. So probably you can see here, this comes towards the end, because as an individual, these are all very important, fundamental, and over these you need to build this. So that's higher education. So having said this, people talk about quality. So of course, quality in anything for that matter. So if you look at the definition of quality, is the So the keyword here is totality of features and characteristics of a product or service. Of course, technically, it can be either a product or a service that bears on its ability to satisfy the given needs or the required needs. So, of course, quality is a very relative term. So we say quality. Of course, in my view, quality is quality. There is nothing like low quality, medium quality, or high quality. Quality is quality because quality is an intrinsic property. So you cannot segregate that into different levels. But still, practically, these are 5 other, maybe call it as sub definitions, wherein the quality can be segregated or differentiated to what level your quality or my quality or our quality is. So exceptional. So means what? It exceeds high standards. Of course, standards, when you say for quality, you set some standards and you always keep measuring your quality with reference to the standards, and you say, yes, I am meeting the standards. Yes, my product, my service is offering a quality one. But when it exceeds the standards, again, standards, for obvious reasons, you set it at some levels, what are be the criteria. When it exceeds its exceptional quality. So always I ask this question to the students. An iPhone is given and on the other side some other phone is given. Which one do you select? Of course, there are 1 or 2, we say Samsung and other brands, but most of them, they say iPhone. Why? So the main difference between, maybe I'll take a minute for telling this, the difference between iPhone and other products is the other companies make products for the customers, whereas iPhone creates customers for its products, because other products are running behind the customers, but whereas in case of iPhone, the customers run behind the phone. So that's a difference. So it means in every aspect quality is met, then we call it as an exceptional quality. And then yes, I am in this stage. Do I stop there? I need to sustain. Then comes your consistency. Is my quality consistent? The first batch of product is good. The second batch of product is not good. So that's consistency. And fitness for purpose, yes, meets the stated purpose. Yes, the product is defined. And when I buy that, it meets my requirement. That is fitness for purpose. And the value for money, this is another term which we use very frequently. Do I get for what I have paid? Yes, product is worth the money or the cost I am paying for. And finally, is the quality gives any transformation. So it means what? Qualitative change. So which category we belong to, or a product belongs to, or a service belongs to, we need to measure and find out. So this is very frequently I say, put it in one single sentence to define quality. One is customer satisfaction versus customer delight. So customer is satisfied when he gets for what he pays for, value for money. I wanted something, it is there in the product or in the service. Okay, I'm satisfied. But when I get more than what I paid for, right, then the customer is delighted. So it is left to the individuals or the companies or the institutions whether you just satisfy the customer or you delight your customer. Probably going back to the same example of iPhone versus other phones, an iPhone customer is delighted when a new product is launched, whereas the other customers, they are satisfied. Right? So just a pictorial representation, some are starting from here and coming back here where the customer is delighted. Now, coming back to quality in higher education, why do you want quality in higher education? So under globalization, because days are gone where India, every country, they were self-contained, not much of technological and economical transactions between the countries. And once globalization came into picture, then we cannot survive with our own local standard or local. When I say standard, we meet only quality which meets that local standards. So we need something representing at a global level. So we wanted the following things to be improved: talent, creativity, and innovation. This is again the buzzword, Of course, again, I'll keep emphasizing on this subsequently also. Creativity, competency. So now this is the word which the industry uses nowadays. Earlier the companies were looking at who is the graduate, where does he come from, what is he qualified, what is his qualification, maybe what is his CGPA, and those aspects are looked upon. But now companies, they don't look at all those things at all. See, I have a task or I have a job. Are you competent enough to take up and do that job? So this is the word which has maybe earlier we were using the word qualification, or am I qualified? Do I qualify for a particular job? Now that term is replaced by competency. So because competency is in a much broader sense than when you say do I qualify for. And finally, research. Yes, of course, maybe in my days there are professors who completed their undergraduation, joined as lecturers, and then they retired as professors. Many of them didn't even do a master's. That was okay in those days, but now, no. So of course, all of us know we are teachers. The entry level qualification to become a lecturer, of course, now the designation has changed. Assistant professor is the entry level designation. We need to have a PhD. You need to be a doctorate. So research is a very important component, which was earlier looked upon as a separate entity. So one side there was teaching learning going on. Someone who completed BE or ME and he joins as a lecturer, keeps teaching. And somewhere some people were doing research, like in IITs, IISCs, and some research organizations, they were doing research. They were looked upon as two separate entities. But now days are gone where a teacher is no more just a teacher. So he is a teacher and a researcher. So only when these two are put together in the present day context, when we talk about globalization, a teacher meets our teacher becomes competent enough to be a teacher in a higher education institution. So this is the background why we need the quality in higher education. But then what is that is needed? So someone wants to, so my basic idea here is to emphasize on why accreditation is needed. I'm not going into the details of each and every accreditation process, but what is needed. So when you want to start an institution, let's say engineering colleges, I see most of or all of us are engineering college professors here. So land is needed, building has to be constructed, equipment is needed, faculty and students are needed. Right. So yes, I have these things, and who is to give me permission for that? So I need to get approvals. So when you talk about approvals for the affiliating university and AICTE, these are the two mandatory bodies, and probably UGC comes into picture when someone goes for autonomous status. Otherwise, affiliating university and AICTE are the approvals. Of course, for a deemed to be university, it's a different. Maybe they come under UGC, but a normal, assuming that most of us are in self-financing engineering colleges, and that category of colleges, the affiliating university and AICTE are the approving bodies. So in all of the websites, we see it affiliated to Anna University or some university and approved by AICTE. So now, for a quite long time, I was wondering, the institution meets the requirements of the affiliating university. The institution meets the requirements of AICTE. They have given approvals. So I am running the college. But where does this accreditation come from? So why do I need an accreditation when I already have my approvals from my university and AICTE? Right? So very lately I realized what is the need for accreditation. So now we'll come here. When you want to get an approval, so what happens? So again, and as I told you in the beginning, there are some set standards. So do we have minimum required land prescribed, minimum required buildings or build-up area? And go to every laboratory, there is some specified standards in terms of numbers and some specifications. Do I have the minimum required equipment, minimum required number of teachers? When I say minimum, it's not the lowest. Minimum, whatever the the approving body prescribes minimum eligibility for teachers and minimum eligibility for students. If I meet all these, I am given approval. Fine, I am eligible to run an institution. Now, if I run an institution with this, what will be the outcome of that? Right? So this will be the outcome of running an institution with minimum requirements. So institution is an institution, student is a student, faculty is a faculty, degree is a degree, and job is a job. What does this mean? So there are, of course, when I joined engineering, there are only 8 engineering colleges, either government or government aided. But now there are 400 plus engineering colleges in Tamil Nadu alone. So IITs, IISc, BITS Pilani, NITs, PSG Tech, and there are so many such institutions, and I am running an institution. So when you forget about the tag, the background, everything, mine is also an engineering college. IIT is also a technical institution. But what is the difference? So the same applies to all these aspects. A student in XYZ college and a student in IIT. So you remove the tag IIT and on the other side the name of the college of the student. They both are students, right? Similarly, faculty, someone who is in IIT or BITS Pilani or NIT, and someone is in XYZ college, maybe tier 2, tier 3 institutions. Again, remove the tag, they are faculty. They are meeting the minimum qualification or requirement set by the respective governing bodies. A degree is a degree. So again, remove the name of the institution, a BTech degree from IIT, a BTech degree from some tier 3 college. They are same in terms of what you see the name of the degree, BTech. Job is a job. Someone in a small scale industry or a medium scale industry works as a supervisor, and someone who works in a multinational. So again, remove the tags. You say, are you employed? Are you in a job? Yes, I'm in a job. The other side, this fellow is an MNC, says, yes, I'm in a job. But okay, so job is a job. Can we take it like that? How do you differentiate these things? So that is where an yardstick is needed. And using that yardstick, I have to measure and differentiate these institutions, right? So what are the things that I need to measure using a yardstick? So why do you need this yardstick? Because, of course, the system is complex here, especially in India. When someone does a BTech degree in an Andhra University, Karnataka University, and he comes to Tamil Nadu University, so of course now that problem has come down. I don't think, at least in engineering, we have that problem. They say go and get an equivalent degree. Means you have to run around, get a certificate saying that the degree which I have done or obtained in a Karnataka University is equivalent to a BE degree offered in a Tamil Nadu University, so that I say, okay, both the degrees are at level, I can do my master's in a Tamil Nadu college. Why? There is no common yardstick there. How do I know the university in Karnataka where the guy has completed his B has quality? I don't know. So I need some yardsticks to go get equivalent degree certificate. What is the quality of the institution? What is the quality of students, teachers, etc.? Of course, here quality, when I say, maybe the student has got good marks also. But how do we know the quality of the student? And this is happening within the country, right? To adjacent states. What if I take the degree and to go to some abroad countries for my master's? How will they evaluate my degree? How will they look at the quality of my degree? So these are all certain parameters where an yardstick is needed, which will tell that, yes, I fall into this category. My degree is, acceptable wherever I go. So when this problem came up, then accreditations came into picture. So as I told you in the beginning, I have approvals, but they're all with the minimum standards, right? They don't talk much about quality. When you say student, the government lays some norms, 60% in the maths, physics, chemistry. and put together so much. And there is a student who got 95 in all of the three. And what is the difference, right? So we need some quality indicators. So that is what accreditation gives. And accreditation is a powerful tool to achieve quality assurance, right? So my system must assure quality. And this accreditation assesses the national system of higher education. Of course, higher education is defined by there's higher education department and so many bodies like UGC, AICTE, all those things. And how do we assess that system? And to do this, we need external peer evaluation based on predefined standards. Of course, everywhere you need to define standard, set a standard against which you measure your product or a service to say whether you meet that or not. So that is where accreditation stepped in. So like fine, if I go in for an accreditation, so what are my benefits? So of course, why we need, I told in the beginning itself, how many of us are very comfortable with the admissions? Yes. See, admission should be a normal process. What do you mean by normal process? I opened up my admissions, people should come and apply and come and join. And there is a counseling, people should go join automatically. But is it happening today? No, the scenario is totally different, right? So obviously, there is some deficiency in the system. So then I need to go in for accreditation. Of course, you need to take some pains to go in for accreditation, which we'll now discuss a little later. So let's see what are the benefits of accreditation. So the society gets a reliable information on quality of education offered. So as I told you, there are only few countable number of colleges. Probably I look for a reference, someone who graduated from that institution, go and ask them how is the facilities, how are the faculty over there. I'll be able to inquire. But with 400 plus colleges, where is the yardstick? How do I judge an institution? Right? So for example, when plus 2 was introduced, the plus 2 scheme was introduced, probably I was second, third batch, wherein the teachers who had their UG degree, BSc Physics, BSc Chemistry like that, they are BSc, B.Ed or BT at that time. So they went for some training and they were teaching higher secondary students. And just like in our scenario, like, most of the teachers were undergraduates, BE, and some were masters, very rarely PhDs. So of course, my father being a teacher, he inquired a lot and then finally found out a school where all the teachers are master degree holders. I mean, the MSc, MEd. So he put me there. So why I'm telling you is now it's very difficult to go find out each and every institution, get a reference there, find out what the quality is over there. Whereas this accreditation, which gives a quality indicator, I need not run around anywhere, right? At the click of a button, I know what are the institutions which are accredited, and if they are accredited, I readily join there. If it is not accredited and for some reason I want to join there, then I look for references, right? So it gives reliable information. And students are assured that they will receive education of high academic quality, right? I underlined the keywords, high quality, and this is what is very important. Professional relevance. Of course, a degree is a degree, but the knowledge that I acquire, does it have any professional relevance to my job or to my higher studies, to my profession? So because this question came up, now more and more government is also pushing for more and more of autonomy for especially higher education institutions, so that they can dynamically change their curriculum, which will have professional relevance to the rapidly changing technical scenario in the world, right? So this is very important. Relevance is very important, right? And most of the time in accreditation, I assume, most of you have already gone in for at least one level of accreditation. When the committees come and say, sir, we are affiliated to an university, we don't have any freedom in changing my curriculum and syllabus, what do I do? Right? So with autonomous, yes, this is possible. So employer gets competent graduates, as I told you, competent graduates, or a graduate who has been developed holistically, or an all-round performer. So that's what you mean, competent graduates, and it gives confidence to all stakeholders, parents mainly, before admitting their son or ward into an institution. Of course, now information is available through internet, so they are also very much aware of, yes, this institution is ISO certified, they are NB accredited, they are NAC accredited, right? Their NIRF rankings is high, so they blindly admit their student, the son, the daughter in the institution. So it gives confidence to all stakeholders, students, parents, employers, the society. So the moment you say he's from that university or that institute, oh fine, he must be a good candidate in terms of technically good and character-wise also good. So that's what you call overall development, and that's a confidence that it gives. And facilitates admission into foreign universities. Maybe I forgot to add here, I should have put foreign admission into foreign universities / jobs abroad. So this is very, very important and very critical these days, because nowadays a lot of abroad universities, Germany, US, everywhere, as I told you, 400 plus in Tamil Nadu alone, so thousands and thousands in India. So how do they judge your degree? So now they have this yardstick: is your degree NBA accredited? If yes, fine. Is your college NAC accredited? You cannot simply say yes, because I know that I have come across a case study wherein a student was not given admission because that university has listed out colleges, and this boy's college was not there. Finally, when he looked into, he found that colleges which are NAC A and above, NAC A grade and above only are listed there. So where will he go if you want to go for higher studies? So there are cases where the employers are looking for whether the program is NBA accredited. So we talk about globalization, and because your institute doesn't have NBA or a NAC, even in NAC, if you don't have A and above, your student, though is capable, competent, brilliant, he won't be able to get admission into a foreign university. Of course, this is picking up now. I won't say 100% of higher education, foreign universities look for that, but they have started looking for these standards before admitting the students. So higher studies and also job, so they are relevant on this. They are relying on these quality indicators, which are the outcome of the accreditations. Of course, I need not tell much about that. So for engineering colleges, was NBA is one of the important yardstick, and of course people are going for NAC also. And especially when you become autonomous, yes, NAC becomes mandatory. And one important thing I want to tell here, especially institutes which haven't gone for any of these two accreditations, I know at least a couple of cases where the institution is looking for NAC accreditation because their admission has gone down, and they are looking for accreditation. You need a tag, my institution is accredited. Then I asked them, why are you going for NAC? Why don't you go for NBA? That is more relevant to engineering education, especially because NAC is applicable for all types of institutions and universities, arts and science, dental, all those things. But NBA specific engineering, why don't you go? Then they said, no sir, going for NBA is little difficult. That's little tough, right? Difficult, tough means what? You need to have specific facilities, equipment, and other parameters, right? So it is very difficult, sir. So the management said, first we'll go for NAC. We'll create a tag NAC. Then we'll go for NBA, right? So that's what I said, where you want to stand. You want to stand at the minimum level. So again, when it comes to accreditation, again, there are levels here. So NAC, it's at the overall level, so the management feels it's easy to get, whereas NBA, it's a little difficult because, of course, I'll come to that later. So please keep in mind that our objective is to improve or raise the quality of the institution. There again, don't try to compromise on that. So these are the two accreditations. Of course, this is not typically an accreditation, but it's a ranking framework. This is also of late is becoming popular. So parents are looking for these three attributes in an institution for deciding to put their son or what in an institution, right? So maybe each one has got a different the process, but for a basic information sake, we'll go through one by one quickly. So when it comes to NBA, because NBA is there for a very long time, but of late, this is little different. The assessment is little different. What is the big difference? It's outcome-based education. So that is the concept that has been brought into NBA. And a little background about this is, earlier, of course, the NBA, initially it was part of AICTE. If I'm right, it was in 1994 it was formed. And NBA had their assessment standards derived with respect to Indian context within our country, our own standards. And of course, that is the first time an accreditation process was introduced, and it was going well. But subsequently, as I told you, the case studies where our degrees are to be recognized internationally. So this NBA accreditation, again, I said, quality standard, it's you decide. Even in quality, I want this level or I want this level. Yeah. So NBA decided we have to raise the bar. So that is when, of course, these are all very old, but only thing is only recently we talked more about that. So there's something called Washington Accord. Of course, if I'm right, around 20 countries are signatories of that. So they decided, okay, we'll set standards at the international level and let the accreditation process adapt that, so that at least within these 20 countries, anywhere you go, your degree is readily accepted. So that's the significance of Washington Accord, and the assessment is at international level. So, and because of that, you get a globally valid degree. And of course, as I told you, the difference between NAC and NBA is NBA specific to a department. So in a college, one department would have got accreditation for a lower grade, and another department would have got a higher grade of accreditation. It's program specific. Of course, outcome-based education is very interesting, but that alone will take another a session to talk about outcome-based education. But this is changing. Outcome-based education has changed the way the teaching learning is happening, right? Of course, initially it's little difficult to understand this hobby. That's what happened in our institution also. Of course, as Professor Murugan said, I'm in the role of implementing that. Initially, it was Greek and Latin. Then, team of teachers, we had to attend at least 3 workshops to understand what actually it is. Then we gradually started implementing it. And outcome-based education and Bloom's taxonomy, these are the 2 terms that are being widely used. And of course, even today, it's not very common in engineering colleges, but even schools have started adopting this outcome-based education and Bloom's taxonomy, right? So when it comes to accreditation, so there are 10 criteria in NBA. So you can see that vision, mission, program, educational objectives. Of course, this normally they call it as PEOs. I think most of the colleges who have gone in for NBA can go to their website. they would have defined these program educational objectives for each of the program. Program, I mean the branch, right? PEOs. Because program educational objective is what it says, what will your student become after 3 or 4 years of his graduation. So long-term planning, I say, okay, fine, he joined, I taught him, I gave him a degree. Do I end up there? Right? No. So probably all of us are engineers, you know about the term life cycle management, product life cycle management. So starting from admission till his career, right? That's a life cycle of a student. The institution must take the moral responsibility or the accountability for that. So that is a program education objective. And next is curriculum. Of course, this mark will slightly vary between tier 1 and tier 2. There is autonomous and non-autonomous. Doesn't matter. The main highlight here is how accreditation pushes you, literally pushes you or an institution to raise their standards. So next is program curriculum and teaching learning process, course outcomes and program outcomes. I'll touch upon a little bit in the subsequent slides. Students' performance, faculty information and contributions. Of course, we have rest of the facilities, continual improvement. Of course, as far as the NBA is concerned, there's two parts. One is the department and the first year academics. Normally, of course, in autonomous, it's slightly changing. Of course, even in our institution, we are trying to put in the basics of the department in the first year itself. But otherwise, generally, they have common subject like technical English, physics, chemistry, and first year mathematics. So it's separated and other things. But now look at the highlight of this. So out of this 1,000, so the major goes for the highest goes for faculty information and contribution. So this is what I told in the beginning. Faculty is a faculty, right? And next is students. Of course, only faculty and student are the major components of an institution. So this is the next highest is student performance 150. And these two, of course, this talks about your typical OBE, course outcomes and program outcomes, which casts 120 marks. And the curriculum design on the teaching learning process contains 120 marks. So I think out of this 1,000 you calculate it is 500 plus, if I'm right, 560, if I'm right, so 200, 300, 400, 590, right? So more than 50% of the marks or the weightage goes for this 4 out of 10 criteria. So that is where accreditation plays a role. So now I thought I will select only the criteria which I have highlighted there. Details of the content beyond the syllabus for attainment of program outcomes and program specific outcomes. Probably those of you who have not gone in for OBE, these terms may be slightly new. But the highlight here is content beyond the syllabus. Of course, as I told you, if you belong to tier 2 non-autonomous college, you are confined or you are restricted or you are forced to use the syllabus that's given by your affiliating university, whatever the university be. But then we cannot force the university. Of course, university has its accountability and responsibility to revise their curriculum and syllabus periodically. But the problem always here is there is a gap between the revision of the curriculum syllabus of the institutions and the pace at which the technology is changing in the industry, right? How do I bridge this gap? This one question any committee will ask you. Then you cannot say, sir, it's my affiliating university syllabus, what can I do? No, that will only be a lame excuse. What can I do? The university is not preventing me to teach something that's beyond the syllabus. Right? Of course, even in our institution, SVC, when we prepare a lesson plan, of course, we prepare it unit-wise, and the contents of the first unit is split over 8 or 9 sessions. And finally, we have another column where we say content beyond syllabus. No one is preventing you from that. So this is this component where you try to bridge the gap between your curriculum syllabus and the industry requirement. And the second is improving the quality of teaching and learning, right? And so I highlighted this quality of question papers, assignments and evaluation. So it is interesting, initially when the first time when we implemented OBE, we had a parents meet, and one parent was asking, sir, looks like you have suddenly changed the question paper standards to IIT level. Because I was also part of the team implementing OBE, I was telling them we have not changed the question paper level. Only thing is we have taught them the content, but the way we ask the question, we have changed it. So before that, we will blindly memorize and write the answer. But now we have slightly twisted or tweaked the question so that he cannot readily write it. He has to apply his mind, think, and then write. Of course, this joke all of us know. And the teacher marked it wrong and gave 0 mark, and he was asked to say, if the answer is correct, Gandhi is there, give him half the mark. So that's a joke apart. The quality of the questions makes a very big difference in the students, in the thinking ability, right? Instead of asking the question, who is father of the nation, you ask him the question, amongst the freedom fighters, whom do you think has contributed a major part in getting freedom from the British rule? Then, there are so many, of course, there are a lot of other controversies. Let's not get into that. People talk about Mahatma Gandhi, they talk about Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, they talk about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. There are so many people, right? Chidambaram, so many people. Then he has to apply his mind and that who is the one who played a key role in getting freedom. Then you say, okay, fine, Mahatma Gandhi. So the way we ask questions, right? So you teach them Indian history and you ask questions only from that, right? So that we have to keep in mind. That's what I told the parent. We have not changed the content. Content is same. The way we ask questions have changed, right? So if I ask something outside of the syllabus or the content, then you can question me. But it's within the content, within the syllabus. But the way I ask my question. That's what I said. It's outcome-based education is all about that. And of course, assignments and evaluation. Because normally we say draw, diagram, mark its part, something like that we give. Where it doesn't think anything about that, it takes a textbook, diagram is there, he writes very neatly and then does it. Will that be sufficient? Right? So quality of student project, again, a project is a project, but is this project worth where he has applied the concepts what he has learned and applied that into his project? So that is very essential. And what sort of industry-institute interaction the institution has, how frequently there is interaction between the student. So in terms of industrial visits, right? So because as engineers, because we are confined to the classroom, courses are being taught, right, exam, all those things. But when you go to an industry, you don't know what of an industry, what sort of machines will be there, what materials comes in, what goes out. You don't know what the system is. Then how do you get into a job? And this is more crucial today because industries, they don't want to spend even a penny in training the students. The conventional method is you join an industry, first year it's training, second year is probation, third year you are confirmed, and then you are put onto a job. So the 2 years you don't directly contribute to the development of the company. You are only a trainee, you are being paid. So today companies don't want that. They want the student to be put on to the job on day one. But how will the student get exposed to that? So that is where, of course, industrial visits are very common. You go, just look around, come back, right? Sort of a mini trip. But the government or AICTE and the UGC, they became a little serious on that. They wanted the students to be job ready. So they made internship compulsory. right? Wherein the student goes there, because industrial visit is different. And one more thing is in-plant training. That term we are not using nowadays. In-plant training is you go there for 3 days or 4 days, just go around and come back. But when you say internship, you go there, stay there for a minimum of 2 weeks. You are put on to a small job, a real-time job, and you work along with the engineers over there. So that is industry internship. Criteria 3 talks about the course outcome, program specific outcome. This is what I tell every course. Okay, even today, Anna University, since at the top you can see objectives, right? After studying that course, what a student should be able to, or what the student will be capable of. Of course, we don't look at it enough. Probably, we cut the top portion, bottom portion, take only the syllabus content, and we know what is the standard textbook start teaching. But that will not work out. Then he'll be a student is a student category. So you define clear course outcomes. After this course, you'll be able to have these and these skills, right? Once you define that, then you need to specifically test those skills. That's what I told earlier, the quality of the question paper, the way you ask your questions, so that you will really know whether the student has understood that part or not. So that's about course outcome. This is for each of the every course. Program outcome is after 4 years, as I told you earlier, the overall development, right? Has he achieved that or not? So that's what is program outcomes. And program outcomes are defined by NBA. There are 12 program outcomes, which is almost standard across all programs. But whereas when it comes to individual programs like mechanical, electrical, computer science, so you can define your own outcomes specific to your department and assess the students based on that. So you have to define this, you have to define this, you have to define this, and finally you have to find out whether the outcomes have been met or not. So this is about the criteria 3. And the criteria 4, students' performance, this also has maximum marks. So enrollment ratio, what is your enrollment? What is your, allotted intake, and how many students join? So this is a very clear indication where the institution stands in terms of quality. Nothing else is needed, right? That clearly will say, right? So that's the reason why that is measured as one of the parameter. Next is success rate without backlogs. Again, going back, take an institution, 500 students join, and among that there's one student who never had any arrear and consistently he got 9 CGPA, and there is another student who had a lot of arrears, somehow managed, right? And finally he came out with a degree with a first class. Both are first class. The one fellow with a 9 CGPA, the other one is with 6.57, whatever it is. And the university is very considerate, and they say 4 years is the period. Of course, in our days it was like that. Probably they give 1 more year. Within that 5 years, you complete all your arrears, everything, you get 60%, then you get a first class. Right? Where is the yardstick? Where is the quality? That fellow who was consistent, got 9 CGP, also says, I am a first class. Maybe there will be a first class with distinction, but otherwise leave that distinction tag. He says first class. This fellow also says first class. What's the difference? So that's why this is measured as a parameter. So what percentage of students got placed? How many students went for higher studies? So now this problem comes up. I have already told you this is started coming up. If you don't wake up immediately, right? I won't say relaxedly. Wake up immediately and address this issue. Your students will have problems when they go for placement or higher studies outside of India, right? And finally, entrepreneurship. Of course, all engineers, some are technically oriented, some are managerially oriented, some they have a quest to do business. Could be they acquire from the family business, or he wants to start something on his own. Because of late, you see, we hear this word, startups, right? So does your curriculum give inputs for these things? Because major these three, earlier I was talking about PE was program educational objectives. After degree, what we will do, either you will take up a technical job, and sometimes does some MBA and then directly goes to managerial role, or basically placement, or you'll go for higher studies, or you'll turn into an entrepreneur. Thus, your curriculum, your system, your process gives input so that the student can get into that and then flourish from that. So next is about NBA criteria 5 that talks about faculty contribution which had the maximum marks. So first is student faculty ratio. Of course, this keeps changing, but today it's 1:20 for tier 2 and 1:15 for tier 1, that is autonomous institutions. Again, this is minimum. I am a tier 2 institution. If I have 1:20, I satisfy. Still be accredited. But what is the significance of this? You go to institutions of higher caliber, you can see the student faculty ratio. Put it the other way around. For every, it will be 1:10, 1:8, 9. Of course, most of the abroad universities, it will be less than 10. Why? The number is more means I spend more time. The number of teachers are less. They spend more time in teaching learning process. They don't have time to do research. They don't have time to do a funded project. They don't have time to do consultancy work. So this is again a set standard. 1:20 is the minimum. But if as an institution, if you want to flourish, raise your bar, raise your standards, quality, then you should not stick to this what is prescribed standard. Go above that. When I say above that, in terms of numbers, it will go down. 1:12, 11, like that. Then yes, your faculty will be able to do your teaching, quality research. Because I told you, now both are together. So I must be able to teach, I must be able to do research also. And faculty qualification, of course, now they are mandated, like entry level is PhD. Faculty cadre proportion. A teacher is a teacher. Say there is a department, let's say mechanical. For my strength, I need 25 teachers. I have 25 teachers. All are PhD holders. But the problem is, all are having only 2 to 3 years of experience. Number of teachers, 25 degrees PhD eligible, but they have only 2 to 3 years of experience. Do you think they'll be able to do a good show? No. So there should be a senior person, then middle level, then so there's a professor, associate professor, assistant professor. There's some ratio with which all the activities are carried out. Do your institution meet that? That's also very vital. And faculty retention, what is the average experience of the teachers in your department or in your program? And the average number is more, means you have more experienced teachers. When you have more experienced teachers, yes, the rest is taken care of. And what are the innovations by faculty in teaching and learning? So I was telling you about the OBE, outcome-based education, in terms of teaching pedagogy. How do you ask questions? How do you give assignments, right? And then academic research, and sponsored research, and finally consultancy. So I must be able to do these things. And to do an academic research, a sponsored research, do a consultancy, the teacher must have sufficient free time. How do you create free time for the teachers? The only way that you can create free time or give free time to teachers is this ratio. If you reduce this number, right, instead of sticking to that minimum standard, you will have constraints. You won't be able to raise your standards, right? So these are the criteria which carries the major weightage. So now as an institution, so already you went in for accreditation, you got the lawyer, lawyer certificate, and you are aiming for the next level of certificate. Then you have to focus on these areas wherein you score maximum, right? So that you get the highest accreditation degree. So this is what the NBA grading. Of course, the very beginning, in fact, they were giving a grade letters, A, B, like that. But for some reason or other, at a later point, they changed it. They said, 2 years accredited, 5 years accredited, like that. But currently, out of the 1,000 points, you get a minimum of 750 and above. That's called full accreditation of the program, which is for 6 years. And provisional accreditation of the program is for 3 years. So still you can call yourself accredited, but not fully accredited. So this is possible when you get a score of greater than or equal to 600 points. So recently, in an institution where they went for MBA, so they were able to get only 3 years. The teacher was telling me, sir, they are laying a lot of focus on outcome-based education. Like, you should understand, implement, and then improve. So these are the 3 steps. First, understand what OB is, then start implementing. And you don't stop at the implementation stage. You see whether you are improving on that or not. So the teacher was telling me, if we had focused a little bit more on this OBE, probably we would have got the full accreditation. So that's the reason why, I've been emphasizing right from the beginning on the outcome-based education. Of course, you have to, it cannot be done overnight, right? And it cannot be done in one semester. So in my experience, meticulously, if you start implementing it, it will take minimum 3 years to implement OBE in a full-fledged manner, because understanding itself will take a lot of time, right? There are 200, 300 teachers. Making each one of them understand OBE is a Herculean task. By repeatedly giving awareness, conducting programs like this, then start implementing, then correct them, then improve. So keep in mind that OBE plays a major role in that. And if you get less than 600 points, you don't get accreditation. So next is about Enact, National Assessment and Accreditation Council. Of course, this, as I told you in the beginning, this is done for all types of institutions and universities. This is also done at a national level, and the main difference between NBA and NAC is that here it is given at the institution level, at the overall level. And they have a grading system which is valid for 5 years. Whereas in case of NBA, we have 3 and 6. When it comes to NAC, it's only 5 years. They call it as a cycle. One cycle of accreditation is for 5 years. And of course, they have a grading system. So now let's have a quick look at the NAC criteria. Because, of course, earlier, with Coimbatore region, a lot of colleges got autonomous very easily. But in Chennai region, it was very difficult, and maybe I can say probably that we were the first to get autonomous in the Chennai region. But now, a lot of institutions are becoming autonomous, and the government also is looking at giving autonomy to a lot of institutions as much as possible, or give complete autonomy. So then, yes, NAC also comes into picture. So there we have 10 criteria, whereas in NAC we have 7 criteria. Look at that. This is also for 1,000 marks. The curricular aspects. Say what I've done is, because NAC is for different categories, universities, tier 2, tier 1. So what I've done here is I just average the marks, and I didn't give the complete table. I've averaged that and given it here. But our objective here is to know where the focus should be. So the curricular aspect, which consists of 125, teaching learning, right? Teaching learning evaluation. Though NAC doesn't, NAC doesn't focus as much as NBA does on OBE, but still your teaching, learning, and evaluation gets 300 marks. And if I want to improve upon this, obviously I have to go in for outcome-based education. And the research, innovation, and extension activities. So among these 1,000, so it's 300 plus, that's 460. Roughly 50% of the marks goes for this 2 out of 7 criteria, right? So, of course, in case of NBA, it's marks, 500, 600 like that. Whereas in case of NAC, each of these criteria, they have sub-criteria. And for each of that, they have marks and the weightage for that. The weightage varies from sub-criteria. And they have a method of working out and arrive at the number in terms of CGPA, right? So even you look at the criteria 2, which talks about enrollment. This is a thumb rule. If more students are joining, means quality is better. I mean, I'm talking about a normal admission process. There are institutions which go in for a massive drive in terms of publicizing and things like that. That is one way of doing it. But when I say my enrollment is the best, means that goes through a normal admission scenario. And this also talks about teacher profile and quality. So this is important. When I say profile, probably I say an MTech is MTech, a PhD is a PhD. But where did he get his BTech from? Where did he get his MTech from? Right. That makes a lot of difference. Right? That's what I mean, a teacher profile and the quality. Because evaluation process and reforms, of course, forget about this. This automatically came. So what is my evaluation process? Right? And what are the reforms I am making in constantly? Right? Because those who are aware of ISO, even otherwise you have heard of this PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act. So that's called PDCA cycle. So that's the backbone for ISO. So means that keeps the wheel keeps running. You don't stop at any point, because whatever improvement you do, still there is some scope for improvement, right? So that's the NAC focuses on the reforms, and then again here, student performance and learning outcomes. So this is the word outcome, right? So again, a pass is a pass, right? 45 is the minimum pass. That fellow also will say I passed. Someone who got 95 also will say I passed. Right? Removing the numbers there, a pass is a pass. But outcome is different, right? Outcome is something which you specifically define, and you are measuring whether the student has achieved that or not. And criterion 3, again, it says research. How much research activities are there? And if you want to do research, without facilities, you cannot do research. Of course, if you go to this criteria, NAC is asking you how much money you have invested in creating a facility that will promote research. So as I told you in the beginning, go to any laboratory, there are machines which is prescribed by, you're affiliating university, maybe AICTE also. I have that. But no, I work that for my minimum. But can I do research with that? No, I cannot do. So that's the reason why NAC focuses on the facilities that you have created or established to do research. I think now you understand why accreditation is important. So this is the buzzword or the keyword, right? When you go and say that I can do any job, that's not accepted. I can give solutions. To give solutions, any Dan, Dick, and Harry will give solutions. Can you give an innovative solution? So that is the keyword here, and that is possible only when you have facilities for research, do research. This can be created. And publications, yes, I think at least in this meeting, at least 75% of you, either you would have completed PhD or you'll be doing PhD. So you know the importance of publications. And same thing here, consultancy and collaboration. Do you collaborate with industries or even with other institutions or organizations, research organizations? That says everything. So unlike your NBA, here you have a lot of grading system. Of course, even this split up was little, I think if I'm right, it was 4 earlier. Now NAC has expanded it. So on a scale of 4, where do you stand? So A plus plus A, A plus A, B plus plus B plus B, C, and D is less than 1.5, you are not accredited. So this is about NAC. So now the main thing is, if you want to start from here and go above, see, focus on the areas where NAC gives a lot of weightage and then do it. So the NARF ranking is slightly different from NBA and NAC, as I told you, now this is also gaining importance, which stands for National Institutional Ranking Framework, which was initiated and approved by Ministry of Education, Government of India. So let's see what you do here and how it's different from the other two accreditations. We don't call this as accreditation, we call one a ranking. So of course, both in NBA and NAC also, earlier we were submitting a physical SAR or SSR, but now mostly it's done in the online portal, right? And because it's online portal, people are trying to automate it. Of course, even in case of NAC, 70% goes into the portal, the weightage, what they call DVV, right? And only 30% weightage is given for the peer team visit, where they come to your campus, inspect whatever you uploaded, if they have any doubts in that. Of course, in NAC, all the proofs, everything you upload onto the portal. Of course, NAC is employing a third party who evaluates it, right? And then gives you marks. And if you have any doubt or certain documents which they want to actually cross-check or verify, the peer team member, they come to the campus and they make a visit, look at your infrastructure, look at your documents. Of course, in case of NBA, I mean, that's extensive document verification, whereas in case of NAC, it is not that extensive because 70% is taken care of by the evaluation based on whatever you uploaded onto the portal. Of course, NAC is again changing a little bit. Someone who got A+ grade, probably subsequent cycle, you only upload the document, they don't come for a PT visit. There is like some changes happening because once NAC is sure that yes, this institution has got established in terms of facilities and process, a solid system is in place, they feel okay, fine, and you not come and physically see each and every parameter over there. So NIR of here is the data is which is completely online. All the data is uploaded onto the NIR of portal. Of course, background NBA is also supporting this in terms of arriving at the rankings. So once the data is uploaded, the NIR of extracts data, and through a software, it computes the various metrics and it ranks the institutions based on this data. Means whatever you upload, that's being taken and calculated by software, and ranking is done automatically. Means like in case of NBA and NAC, where of course I was telling about an exceptional case where in a subsequent cycle peer team visit will not be there, but otherwise in NBA and NAC peer team visit is mandatory. They will come to the campus to evaluate, whereas in case of NIRF ranking, as of today, it's not mandatory. It's not that team visits every institute to look at that. But similar to NAC also, what happens is they identify a partner agencies, suitably identified partner agencies. See, because I'm only uploading it, right? No one is cross-checking it. So what is the validity of the data? Assuming that we follow ethics and then upload only relevant data, but wherever necessary, they try to take steps to look at the authenticity of the data, and wherever feasible, they go for a visit. Otherwise, if NIR feels that okay, fine, this is not needed, then the ranking goes automatically. So that's NIR ranking, and this is becoming popular. And of course, all of you would have experienced when someone inquires, they immediately say, "What is your NIR ranking?" And all these things are all, especially NIR, it's a public document. Anyone can go and see what is the rank of an institution, which again becomes a yardstick. So only thing is here, the difference is this is not mandatory, and data is uploaded and ranking is being done on that. See, if you look at the various parameters that NIRF looks into here again. So teaching, learning, and see, this is one thing. Resources, if you don't have sufficient resources, quality resources, and this process cannot happen smoothly in a quality manner. Again, research and professional, practice, graduate outcome. Of course, this is slightly different. Outreach and inclusivity, which is not much looked upon in the other two accreditations. How open your institution is to accommodate people from different walks of life, right? From outside your state, domicile state, country, different categories, all those things. And of course, this is one thing which is not there in the other two: perception. How your institution is looked upon by the people, right? By the employers, right? By the public, the perception. So that being said, if you look at that, it has got a different way of calculating it. Of course, marks are same for all of the parameters, but the weightage given. So you can see that teaching learning is the highest, and the research and professional is the highest. The other things are given less importance. So everywhere, irrespective of the accrediting agencies, of course, in addition to this, I don't think, of course, at this moment, to my knowledge, any of the self-financing have gone for ABET accreditation, but I'm sure universities are going in for, say, for example, VIT has gone for ABET accreditation. But irrespective of the accreditation, what you're going for, the focus here is the teaching learning resources and research. And to achieve this, obviously, the backbone of this process is, having the quality teachers, laboratories, equipment for research, without which it's very difficult for any institution to get into the higher ranks of these accreditation programs, right? So these are three things which are widely being used in, especially in engineering colleges. Now, having said this, if you're already into, fine. If not, what are the preparations that an institution is supposed to make? So can it happen overnight? No. Can it happen in a couple of months? No. Can it happen over a semester? Still, it's very difficult, especially when you're going in for first time, right? Two scenarios. One, I'm going for the first time, and the second is, yes, I went in for, but in say, for example, in case of NBA, we got only 3 years. I want to look for 6 years, a full accreditation. Maybe, if you look at NAC, we were able to get only B, but what we're aiming for is at least A, right? So it cannot happen overnight, right? Definitely, as I told you, I use the word pain. Pain means laborious. When I say laborious, is it impossible? No. But when you plan for it and meticulously work towards it, then anything is possible for that matter. So what are the things that you need to look into? Yes, planning. Cannot be short-term planning, long-term planning. So I told you about OBE, it takes minimum 3 years to implement at a decent level, right? So long-term planning is important, and create awareness, because this is very, very important. You ask the teacher. Of course, my friend, he works as a principal in an engineering college. They are planning for NAC accreditation. He's telling, when I ask teachers to stay back, that's the key word here. Because, throughout the day, you are doing a teaching, learning, evaluation, all those blah, blah things. And where is the time to work for NAC, NBA, whatever it is? So obviously, any institution will ask the teachers to stay back and then do that work related to these accreditations. Practically, I'm telling, that's the only way where you could do something towards this. And he's telling, teachers are complaining, why should I stay back till 5 o'clock? By the time I reach home, it is 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30. There will be grievances. So, and once they're not happy about staying back and doing that, what is the quality of the work they do towards the accreditation? Obviously, it will be compromised. So, for that, you need to create awareness, conduct a lot of meetings. So, tell them what is the implication of not getting accredited. Say, I'm part of the system, right? And if I don't work for the system, where will I go? The system goes down, I automatically go down. So that awareness you have to give through repeated, meetings and webinars, and ask them to attend webinars. A lot of webinars are happening these days. Ask them to attend. They must know the importance of that. And once they are aware how important it is, then they'll be working willingly. You say 5 o'clock, no sir, today we can even spend till 6 o'clock. Let me complete this. A lot of things to be done. So that involvement should come from the teachers. Then yes, this accreditation process is like, working. And it became very easy. So that awareness is very important. And of course, I told, in case of NBA, there are 10 criteria, 7 in case of NAC, and the 5 parameters in NIRF. So how do I work? So it's all about data. So 2 things. One, doing an activity. That's the first step. The second step is how do I record? How do I document that activity? See, for example, of course, we are in the process now, and NAC is asking for geotag photographs. So I want data for 5 years. How do I take a geotag photo of, for example, say a training program I organized 2 years back? Right now, here NAC wants me geotag photo of that. Can I create geotag photo of a facility is different. Geotag photo of an incident or a program that took place 2 years back? Not possible. Forget about geotag. So NAC wants at least a 1-page report. What that program was about, who are the chief guests, who are the participants, the attendance of those participants, at least a couple of photographs. Probably one with the speaker, one with the audience, right? A QA session, 2-3 photographs form at least a 1-page or 2-page report. How do I report I can create? But can I create a photograph? You can't create. Yes, no. At that time, I remember someone was taking photos, but I don't know where it is. How do I get it? So, of course, they are looking for authenticity of all those activities. So that it cannot backdate and create a photograph. So that is why I said you form teams. Of course, if it is NBA, there are criteria. Of course, there are the equivalent criteria between NBA and NAC, and probably they'll be leading a similar kind of data. Then form teams at the department levels. There are coordinators for each of the criteria. Probably I could have given you a structure there, I can do it. Right, so department level groups for each of the criteria. And at the college level, because NBA is at the department level, for the NAC it's at the college level. The college level have a coordinator for each of these criteria, where you keep reporting and conduct meetings periodically. And this is what I said, review your progress periodically. Then which is pending. Sometimes initially you have to sit, study, create the process, right? Activities, the data, the report, where do I store it? Who is responsible for that? So this is very, very important. If you do this in a planned manner, when you go for an accreditation, you need not run around. You need not ask the faculty to stay back, right? You need not stay overnight. Of course, we have done that in the very beginning stages. I well remember the very first time when we went for NBA, I slept in the laboratory, right? So you need not do that. So preparation is very important, and planning is very important. And these two are very, very important. Creating awareness, forming teams, and then working towards that. And who is to keep track of the progress, right? Say earlier I was talking about the faculty retention. If retention is there, then this problem will not come up, because they are there. There are institutions where people frequently go out, someone comes in, and how do you track of what he was doing, where he has kept the data, where he has kept the files? And for that, especially for institutions who have a floating population of teachers, a system should be in place. The data integrity is very important. And if you don't keep track of that, it will be very difficult for you to go for these sort of accreditations. Right? So this is about the preparations, and I think this is all from my end in today's presentation. And to summarize what we have gone through in this presentation is, we started with the definition of education, because that we need to understand. Only then we'll understand the necessity or the need for quality in the education system. And what is quality? right? And why quality is needed, especially in higher education, because the main thing is globalization. Maybe some of you are already into this OBE, if you go through the program outcomes, they will say the engineers must be able to solve complex problems. They must be able to analyze complex problems, right? So everywhere, at a highest level, the engineers are supposed to perform, right? So that's why quality is important in higher education. And this is a very important thing which you need to understand. What's the difference between approval and accreditation? Approval is to just start and run the show, but if you want to excel, you need to go for accreditation and prove yourself that your system has quality. And briefly, we touched upon the accreditation when NBA, NAC, and NIRF, which are very widely accepted nowadays, right? So that's all from my end for this presentation. So now, I leave to the organizers. If there are any questions, I'm ready to answer. Of course, I can't see the chat box because I am having a PPT in a slideshow mode. Probably whatever method you have adopted, either they can switch on their mic and ask, or they can post it in the chat box, and the coordinator can read out the questions to me so that I can answer.
Thank you very much, sir. There's a question on the chat box: how to improve our education system equal to international standard levels?
That's what I said, that the two aspects when we talk about the quality of the teachers. One is the background. What sort of teachers you recruit? I don't know, because when we talk about SSN, they say the first priority is the PhD is a PhD, but the first preference is from IIT PhD. If there is no candidate with IIT PhD, then they look for NIT PhD. So because that's related to quality over there. Degree is a degree, right? So you look at the profile of the teacher, where he comes from. See, when a placement happens, those days they didn't look at like that, but now they're looking at the consistency, right? Starting from 10th standard till his 8th semester, as he performed consistently, scoring 70%, 75%, that depends upon the company, consistency they're looking at. When you look at the teacher's profile, if you're saying, the university says you should have an MTech degree, right? He is having an MTech degree. Do I recruit him? What sort of interview process I have? See, first thing is, I advertise, I receive resumes. What procedure or process I have to filter that out? On what basis do I categorize them, or what basis I select them? I'm talking about the resumes or the biodata. So it starts there, and you set some criteria. Okay, fine, I accept. So I told you a case study where universities, they have this yardstick. Only institutions which have NAC grade A and above, I will accept. So you set standards. You set a list of the colleges where the candidate or the teacher should have done his UG and PG. Only then set that as eligibility criteria. Say either you say IIT or NIT, or it's a BITS Pilani, or say PhD Tech, if it's coming down that. Of course, I'm not saying PhD is, not that. So you make a list, and I will select teachers who have graduated only from these institutes. Then automatically, the quality of the teacher is ensured. And after they join, so this is I'm talking about selecting them or appointing them. After that, they have come from the quality institutions. They need to grow, right? So I was telling you about creating facilities. Research is an important component. Then as an institution, it's a responsibility of the management to ensure that facilities are there for the teacher to do research. That is one. And second thing is, give them freedom to go attend conferences, attend workshops. I'm not blaming particularly anyone, but in general, there is a trend that institutions don't allow them. No. You have to do only teaching learning. They don't give them permission. And if someone says, no, I want to attend a conference, they say, okay, go on loss of pay. Right? There is something called on duty or OD. Of course, you have a yardstick there. You ensure that the teacher attends only quality conferences. Right? And then, thereby they get exposed to the latest trends. They do networking. Then they'll be able to do research, right? So one is about the quality as you recruit, then create an environment for them where they will grow in terms of quality by attending conferences, presenting papers, doing research. So that is how you'll be able to raise your levels. Hope I have answered the question.
Yes, thank you, sir. Next, there's a question: how to fix the target for PO attainment in NBA?
Okay. So PO attainment has got two components. One is direct, other one is indirect. And if you look at the PO, we don't directly go and address the PO as such, as a separate entity. So each of course, for each of the courses, you define course outcomes. And when you're preparing a lesson plan, you don't just stop at defining your course outcomes alone. So you map these course outcomes to the program outcomes. So there is a matrix. And in the matrix, you say this particular course outcome, say CO number 1, it maps to PO number 6. So whether it maps or not, yes, it maps. But at what level it maps? The mapping is low, medium, high. And if it maps at a low level, okay, fine, anyway it maps. You don't stop there. Because at the first level, it's only mapping at a low level. So then what I do, I go back in the sense of next time when you revise your syllabus, go back and change the content so that next time when you try to map it to the same PO, it maps strongly. So each of the course and the course outcome contributes to your PO. So in each of the semester, see, PO normally, technically, it is measured at the end of your 4-year program. But what is the use after 4 years? I find that the POs are not attained. So what I'm doing is I'm going back. So each of the course contributes to the PO. So at the end of every semester, I do an analysis, right? Attainment analysis, and see how much these course outcomes have contributed to the POs. Right. Of course, that is over. I cannot do anything about it. But somewhere I must realize that the courses are not contributing much towards PO attainment. Can I do something in the subsequent semester? See, you can't go back and change your syllabus content, but by changing your evaluation process. So I was talking about outcome-based education where NBA says, I'm conducting test means that's routine thing. I'm conducting end semester exam, that's a routine thing. Where there's a set of questions, there are answers you evaluate. Do you have other assessment methods? Say in terms of multiple choice questions, do you conduct quiz? Do you give a project-based learning, PBL? That's another keyword now, PBL, project-based learning. So instead of sticking to the conventional test pattern, try to evaluate the students with additional assessment tools, like as I told you, MCQ, quiz, presentation skills. So because there is one PO addresses the presentation skill or communication skill. By writing an exam, can you improve his communication skill? No. Then do you have an evaluation method where you test the communication skill of the student? So thereby, every end of every semester, you find out the contribution of the COs towards that. And only way you can improve upon that is by using additional evaluation methods. Thereby, it gets accumulated at the end of 4 years, you will see that your program outcome is attained. So that is the way you can get it attained.
Thank you, sir. There is one more question. Whether research center of the institution is necessary to go for NAC accreditation?
Research center is not mandatory, but the other way around is, say for example, there is an institute which doesn't have a research center, but the teachers there, they are doing research, they can still publish in quality journals. But the advantage of research center is, again, indirectly, when you want to establish a research center, of course, there are certain set criteria by the university, and you establish a center. Say, for example, if you don't have a research center, your candidate has to go out and register in another university. Of course, in our case, it's mostly Anna University. And there are some restrictions. The teacher cannot go and then register there. And if he registers, he has to go for coursework. And to go for coursework, he has to take leave. As I was telling, I'm not blaming anyone here. Not all the institutions are willingly giving them OD or on duty or leave to go and attend the coursework. Say, for example, in my case, I was given 1 year complete leave with full salary to do my coursework at Anna University. Of the 365 days, only once I came to the college, that is for Anna University inspection. So these constraints are there. But whereas when you have your own research center, so you attract students and you offer coursework and they can do in your own institution. So that way it is easy for a lot of people to quickly complete PhD. That will facilitate that. And when more number of teachers are doing PhD, means more publications. When more publications, then obviously your score in NAC is improving. So that's what happened in our institution also. Initially, I'm talking about long back, just before getting research center, we had some restriction every year. So only 1 or 2, some number can register for PhD, because when they go for coursework, the academic activities, teaching learning is affected. So when you establish a research center, you have all these advantages.
Thank you, sir. So any other questions, dear participants? Yeah. So we have come to the end of day 5, session 1.